You want me to what now? Lieutenant Rodriguez stared at the holographic obstacle course floating above her desk, her coffee forgotten in her hand. Drill instructor First Class X-Thiop's tentacles rippled in what humans had learned to interpret as extreme agitation. Complete the standard physical aptitude evaluation, Lieutenant. It's a requirement for all new instructors at the Galactic Defense Academy. Rodriguez took a careful sip of her coffee, dark eyes scanning the various elements of the course. And this normally takes candidates a week to finish? Precisely. The course is designed to... X-Thilp's translator crackled as the alien searched for the right words. Push acceptable physiological limits while testing problem-solving capabilities under duress. Uh-huh. Rodriguez set down her coffee and stood, stretching casually. Mind if I take a crack at it now? Now! All four of X-Thilp's eyes blinked in rapid succession. Lieutenant, I must insist you review the safety protocols and... Already did. Read through them while you were explaining the course layout. She was already walking toward the training chamber door, rolling her shoulders. Coming? The next 58 minutes would fundamentally alter the Galactic Defense Academy's understanding of human capabilities and prompt an emergency review of all training protocols. Rodriguez approached the first obstacle, a climbing wall that shifted and reconfigured itself randomly, with what Xthilp would later describe in their report as disturbing enthusiasm. The wall was designed to test both physical strength and tactical planning, with most species requiring several hours to successfully plot a viable route. Rodriguez took one look at it and started climbing. Lieutenant! Xthilp's tentacles were now writhing in genuine alarm. The standard approach requires careful analysis of the pattern. Pattern's got a 3-second delay between shifts, Rodriguez called down, already halfway up. Plenty of time if you don't overthink it. She reached the top in under 2 minutes. The next section featured what the Academy considered their most psychologically challenging obstacle. A narrow bridge over a deep pit, with holographic projections creating the illusion of various environmental hazards. Most candidates spent at least a day working up the courage to attempt it. Rodriguez jogged across while pointing out a calibration error in the holographic wind effects. Xthilp frantically scribbled notes on their datapad. The strength and endurance section was designed to gradually wear down candidates over several days. It included weighted carries, extended swimming sections, and complex climbing frames in varying gravitational conditions. Rodriguez treated it like a morning workout routine. This is actually pretty fun, she commented while deadlifting what was supposed to be an impossibly heavy load. Reminds me of the obstacle courses back at the Academy, though we usually did them in full gear, and rain. Uphill both ways, of course. She grinned at Xthilp's confusion. That was a joke. Well, except for the rain part. The technical challenge portion was meant to test problem-solving skills under physical stress. Candidates had to solve complex mathematical equations while maintaining precise physical positions. Oh hey, these are like those brain teaser games they put on cereal boxes, Rodriguez remarked, solving differential equations while holding a perfect plank position, though the ones on the boxes are usually harder. Xthilp had to sit down. The final section was the infamous Endurance Marathon, a grueling 20-kilometer course through varying terrains and atmospheric conditions. It typically took candidates 2 full days to complete, with multiple rest periods. Rodriguez finished it in just under 3 hours, maintaining what she called a comfortable pace throughout. That was a nice warm-up, she said afterward, barely breathing hard. Mind if I run through it again? I think I can shave off some time now that I know the layout. Xthilp's translator actually shorted out. The emergency committee meeting that followed included representatives from 12 different species, and lasted longer than Rodriguez's entire course run. The main topics of discussion included 1. Whether the course's difficulty needed to be increased by several orders of magnitude for human candidates. 2. If they should create an entirely separate scoring system for human instructors. 3. How to explain to the board of directors that their flagship training program had just been thoroughly demolished by someone treating it as light exercise. Meanwhile, Rodriguez had returned to her office to finish her now cold coffee and complete her paperwork. She was midway through filing her course completion forms when her communication panel lit up with an incoming call from Admiral Yeloth, the Academy's commanding officer. Lieutenant, the Admiral's translated voice carried what Rodriguez was learning to recognize as barely controlled panic. I understand you've completed the instructor qualification course. Yes, sir. Just finishing up the paperwork now. Is there a problem? Not exactly. Tell me, Lieutenant, would you be interested in helping us redesign our physical training programs? We find ourselves in sudden need of updating our standards. Rodriguez brightened. Actually, sir, I have some ideas about that. Back on Earth, we had these things called mud runs that might be interesting to adapt. The Admiral's translator definitely glitched on that one. In the weeks that followed, the Galactic Defense Academy underwent what would later be known as the Human Renovation. Training programs were redesigned, safety protocols were extensively updated, and a new classification system was implemented to account for what the alien instructors termed Death Worlder variants. Rodriguez was promoted to head of physical training innovation, a position created specifically to prevent her from accidentally breaking any more of the Academy's carefully designed training programs. Her first official act was to introduce something she called parkour to the curriculum. The medical bay had to be expanded shortly after. The story of Rodriguez's legendary course run spread quickly through the Academy, growing more elaborate with each retelling. Some versions claimed she'd done it while fighting off space pirates. Others insisted she'd been solving complex theoretical physics problems simultaneously. The truth was somehow more impressive. She'd just been a human being human. When asked later about her performance, Rodriguez simply shrugged. "Look, I get that it was supposed to be challenging, but compared to what we do for fun back home, I mean, have you seen our obstacle course competition shows? There's this one called Ultimate Ninja Warrior that would really blow your minds." The Academy promptly classified all Earth entertainment videos as restricted training material. 1 year later, the Academy introduced its new enhanced curriculum, designed with input from Rodriguez and other human instructors. The graduation rate dropped by 60%, but the quality of graduates improved dramatically. More importantly, the other species began to develop their own versions of what Rodriguez called the human tendency to treat impossible things as interesting challenges. As for the original obstacle course, it was preserved in the Academy Museum, along with Rodriguez's completion time, as a reminder that sometimes the greatest discoveries come from someone looking at an impossible challenge and saying, "Hold my coffee." The plaque beneath the display reads, "In recognition of the day we learned that human standards of reasonable difficulty required significant recalibration. May we continue to be humbled by and learn from our Death Worlder colleagues." Below that, someone, probably Rodriguez, added a handwritten note. "P.S. Wait until they discover CrossFit." That note has been officially classified as a potential security risk. End of report. Training document reference, XJ710-729. Status, archived. Note: this document is required reading for all new alien instructors as part of their Understanding Human Colleagues orientation. Additional note: no, we are not implementing CrossFit. The insurance adjusters were very clear about that. Permission to speak freely, Admiral? Lieutenant Rodriguez stood at perfect attention in Admiral Yeloth's office, trying not to smile at the chaos visible through the transparent walls. Specifically, the sight of 3 Centaurian cadets attempting to navigate what she dubbed the baby's first parkour course. Granted, though I suspect I'm going to regret it. The Admiral's translation unit had been upgraded to handle what they called human conversational variants, but it still struggled with conveying dry humor. "Sir, with all due respect, watching them try to figure out basic vaulting techniques is like watching a documentary about baby giraffes learning to walk. Entertaining, but maybe we should consider some modifications?" The Admiral's upper appendages twitched in what Rodriguez had learned was their species' equivalent of a resigned sigh. "Lieutenant, the last time we implemented your modifications, we had to rebuild half the training facility. In my defense, sir, I didn't know the Arcturian cadets would take wall runs so literally, or that their version of running involved plasma generation." A crash from outside punctuated her statement, followed by what sounded suspiciously like a Centaurian swearing in 3 different languages. "Point taken," Rodriguez added. The Admiral activated their holoscreen, displaying training statistics from the past 6 months. "Despite the occasional structural damage, your programs have produced unprecedented improvements in cadet performance across all species categories, which is why I've called you here today." Rodriguez maintained her professional stance, but her eyes narrowed slightly. She'd learned that when senior officers started with compliments, they were usually about to drop something interesting in your lap. "We're implementing a new joint training initiative," the Admiral continued. "The Galactic Defense Council has noticed our results, and they want to expand the program. They're sending representatives from every major military academy in the sector. Let me guess. They want to see how we're turning out graduates who can actually handle combat situations instead of just theorizing about them?" "Precisely. And you, Lieutenant, will be giving them a demonstration." Rodriguez's grin would have made a shark proud. What kind of demonstration are we talking about, sir? The kind that won't require rebuilding the entire facility afterward, the Admiral replied firmly. We're calling it the Interspecies Combat Readiness Exhibition. Fancy name for watch the humans show off, sir. Lieutenant. Sorry, sir. Professional mode engaged. She straightened up. When do our guests arrive? Next week, which gives you exactly 7 days to prepare a demonstration that will impress 12 different species' military leadership without causing an interstellar incident. No pressure, then. Indeed. And Lieutenant? Yes, sir? Try to avoid mentioning Earth's entertainment programming this time. We're still dealing with the diplomatic fallout from when you showed the Rigelian ambassador episodes of Wipeout. In my defense, sir, how was I supposed to know they'd try to replicate it? The week that followed was a blur of activity as Rodriguez prepared what she privately called Deathworlder Light, the exhibition version. She carefully designed demonstrations that would showcase human capabilities while still appearing achievable, or at least comprehensible to other species. The arrival of the delegation brought 12 of the most decorated military leaders in the galaxy to the Academy's newly reinforced training facilities. Rodriguez watched from her office as they filed in, each species moving in their own distinct way. The flowing grace of the Arcturians, the precise movements of the Rigelians, the measured hoverglide of the Centaurians. Her communicator buzzed. They're ready for you, Lieutenant. Rodriguez took a deep breath, checked her uniform, and headed for the demonstration area. Time to show them what humans could do, without causing an interplanetary incident. The main training hall had been configured into what looked like a relatively simple obstacle course. The key word being looked like. Distinguished representatives, Rodriguez began, her translator working overtime to convey her words in 12 different languages simultaneously. Today's demonstration will showcase the integrated training methodologies we've developed here at the Academy. She gestured to the course. What you see before you appears basic, but it incorporates elements designed to challenge every species' natural abilities while developing new ones. We call it the Universal Adaptability Circuit. One of the Rigelian representatives raised an appendage. Our analysis suggests this course would be impossible to complete efficiently given the varying physiological limitations of different species. Rodriguez smiled. That's exactly the point, sir. Watch closely. What followed was 20 minutes of what Rodriguez later described in her report as controlled showing off. She moved through the course with fluid efficiency, demonstrating how each element could be approached in multiple ways depending on a species' capabilities. The key, she explained while executing a perfect wall flip that had several delegates checking their visual sensors, is not to try to make every species move like humans. Instead, we help them discover how to optimize their natural abilities while learning new ones. She landed gracefully and pointed to various sections of the course. The Arcturians excel at the vertical elements due to their natural plasma generation. The Centaurians have revolutionized our approach to the balance sections. And the Rigelians? Their problem-solving capabilities have completely changed how we think about the tactical response segments. The delegates were taking notes furiously. But the real breakthrough, Rodriguez continued, came when we stopped thinking in terms of limitations and started thinking in terms of possibilities. Every species has something to teach and something to learn. She demonstrated a modified version of a parkour vault that had been adapted for Centaurian physiology. This move was originally impossible for Centaurian cadets. Then one of them figured out how to use their hover capabilities in a way we'd never considered. Now it's standard training for 3 different species. The demonstration concluded with Rodriguez leading a group of senior cadets, one from each major species, through a synchronized routine that showcased how different physiologies could work together to overcome obstacles. The silence afterward was broken by the Arcturian High Commander. Most impressive, Lieutenant. Though I notice you kept this demonstration rather restrained. Rodriguez managed not to wince. Sir? We've seen the unedited training footage. The commander's bioluminescent patterns shifted in what she recognized as amusement. The infamous coffee incident has become required viewing in our tactical analysis classes. Ah. Rodriguez shot a glance at Admiral Yeloth, who somehow managed to look innocent despite their species lacking traditional facial expressions. That was a unique situation. Indeed. Which is why we're not here just to observe your training methods, Lieutenant. The commander's patterns pulsed brightly. We're here to discuss expanding them, significantly. Rodriguez felt her professional demeanor crack slightly. How significantly are we talking about, sir? The Galactic Defense Council is proposing a new division, the Interspecies Combat Integration and Training Command, and we want you to help design it. Several hours and many meetings later, Rodriguez sat in her office, staring at her new orders with a mix of disbelief and growing excitement. Her communicator chimed. So, Admiral Yeloth's translated voice held distinct amusement. I trust you're happy with your new assignment, Commander Rodriguez? She looked at the promotion orders again. Sir, just to be clear, you want me to design training programs that will push the boundaries of what every species thinks is possible? Within reason. And I have authorization to recruit other human instructors? Within reason. And the budget for facility repairs has been significantly increased? Don't push it, Commander. Rodriguez grinned. You know this is going to get interesting, right, sir? That, Commander, is precisely what we're counting on. The Admiral paused. Though perhaps we should wait a while before introducing them to this American ninja warrior you keep mentioning. Probably wise, sir. Rodriguez looked out her window at the training grounds, already mentally redesigning them. Probably wise. In her desk drawer, a datapad contained her first draft of what would become known as the Deathworlder Integration Protocol. The first line read, Rule 1. Always expect humans to exceed expectations. Rule 2. Have really good insurance. The future of galactic military training was about to get very interesting indeed. Commander Rodriguez, we have a situation. The newly promoted commander looked up from her holoscreen, where she'd been reviewing applications for the Interspecies Combat Integration and Training Command, ICITC. Lieutenant X Thilp's tentacles were writhing in what she now recognized as their things are about to get complicated pattern. Define situation, Rodriguez replied, already saving her work and standing up. The Arcturian delegation has arrived early for their assessment of the new training protocols. That's not technically a situation, Zithilp. They brought their elite guard candidates with them. Still not seeing the crisis. And the Regellian ambassador's security detail is here for their scheduled training session. Ah. Rodriguez pinched the bridge of her nose. And let me guess, neither group is willing to reschedule? Correct. Additionally, both groups are expressing strong opinions about their respective combat methodologies. A distant crash emphasized Exathilp's point, followed by what sounded suspiciously like plasma discharge meeting crystalline armor. Right then, Rodriguez straightened her uniform. Time for some creative problem solving. Get me a direct line to both commanding officers and prep Training Ground Zero. Training Ground Zero? Exthilp's translator actually squeaked. Commander, that facility isn't scheduled to open for another 3 weeks. The safety protocols haven't been fully. Perfect time for a field test, wouldn't you say? Rodriguez was already striding toward the door. And Sithilp? Yes, Commander. Get Admiral Yeloth on the line. They'll want to witness this. Training Ground Zero was the ICITC's newest facility, designed specifically for what Rodriguez called maximum adaptability scenarios. The massive chamber could reconfigure itself in real time, generating terrain and obstacles suited to any known species' capabilities, or deliberately unsuited, depending on the training objective. Rodriguez arrived to find the Arcturian and Regellian forces in what diplomatic circles would politely term a heated discussion. The fact that one group was literally glowing with barely contained plasma energy, while the other's crystalline armor was resonating at frequencies that made her teeth ache, suggested that heated might soon become literal. Gentle beings, she called out, her translator broadcasting in both groups' preferred frequencies. Welcome to Training Ground Zero. Both contingents turned to face her, momentarily united in their surprise. Commander Rodriguez? The Arcturian elite guard captain's bioluminescence pulsed in formal greeting patterns. We were not aware this facility was operational. It wasn't supposed to be. The Regellian security chief's crystalline form shifted in what might have been concern. Our intelligence suggested that it wouldn't be ready for 3 more weeks. Rodriguez smiled. Consider this an opportunity for some advanced field testing, unless, of course, you'd prefer to reschedule. The two commanders exchanged looks that transcended species barriers. The universal expression of, we can't back down now without losing face. What do you propose, Commander? The Arcturian asked carefully. A joint training exercise, Rodriguez replied, activating the facility's main control interface. Both teams working together against scenarios neither of you has encountered before. Think of it as a preview of the future of galactic military cooperation. The holographic display showed a series of training zones, each more complex than the last. The objective is simple. Both teams must reach the extraction point. But, and this is the important part, you can only succeed by combining your unique capabilities. The course is specifically designed to be impossible for any single species to complete alone. Impossible? The Rigelian's crystalline structure sparked with interest. Even for humans? Rodriguez's smile widened slightly. Would you like to find out? What followed would later be termed the Zero Incident in official reports, though unofficial accounts usually called it the day Commander Rodriguez broke physics again. The training course began relatively simply, with obstacles that clearly required both Arcturian plasma manipulation and Rigelian crystalline resonance to overcome. The two teams, initially skeptical, found themselves grudgingly impressed by each other's capabilities. Then Rodriguez started introducing what she called dynamic variables. The key to real combat readiness, she explained while the chamber reconfigured itself around them, isn't mastering static obstacles. It's adapting to changing conditions while maintaining operational effectiveness. She demonstrated by running up a suddenly appearing wall, flipping over a plasma vent that would have incinerated most species, and landing on a crystalline platform that shouldn't have been able to support her mass. "Your turn," she called down to the increasingly bewildered elite forces. The Arcturians and Rigelians exchanged looks again, this time sharing a different universal expression. Humans are insane. But they tried, and failed, and tried again. And somewhere between the 15th and 20th attempt, something remarkable happened. The Arcturian elite guards started anticipating the Rigelian security forces' needs, using their plasma fields to create paths through seemingly impassable barriers. The Rigelians, in turn, began modulating their crystalline resonance to amplify and direct the Arcturians' energy manipulation. They were, in short, working together. "Now," Rodriguez called out as both teams approached the final challenge, "this is where it gets interesting." The chamber transformed into what appeared to be a quantum probability maze, a structure that existed in multiple states simultaneously, requiring precise timing and coordination to navigate. This part, she admitted, might actually be impossible. The Arcturian captain's bioluminescence flickered in what might have been amusement. "You mean like your instructor qualification course was impossible?" "Exactly like that." The Rigelian chief's crystalline form shimmered. "Then we shall do it in half the expected time." Rodriguez watched as the two elite units, who less than 2 hours ago had been on the verge of a diplomatic incident, worked in perfect synchronization to navigate the impossible maze. The Arcturians used their plasma fields to probe different quantum states, while the Rigelians' crystalline structures resonated at frequencies that temporarily stabilized specific probabilities. They reached the extraction point in 18 minutes. "Impressive," Rodriguez acknowledged as the teams emerged, their earlier antagonism completely forgotten in the shared triumph. "Though you might want to work on your efficiency. The theoretical minimum completion time is 15 minutes. "Theoretical?" the Arcturian captain asked. "Well, that's my current record." Rodriguez grinned. "But I'm sure you'll beat it eventually." Later, in Admiral Yeloth's office, Rodriguez submitted her report on the impromptu training session. "Let me be clear." The Admiral's translator struggled to convey their tone. "You took 2 elite military units who were about to cause an interplanetary incident, threw them into an untested training facility, and subjected them to scenarios that our safety board hadn't approved yet?" "Yes, sir." "And the result?" "Both teams have submitted formal requests to extend their stay and continue joint training exercises. The Arcturian captain and Rigelian chief are currently discussing the possibility of creating a permanent exchange program between their forces." "I see." The Admiral was quiet for a moment. "And the facility?" "Performed perfectly, sir. Though we might need to replace a few quantum probability generators. Turns out they don't handle crystalline-enhanced plasma manipulation very well." "Of course they don't." The Admiral's appendages moved in what Rodriguez had learned was their version of resigned acceptance. "You realize this means every major military force in the galaxy will want access to Training Ground Zero now?" "That was rather the point, sir." Rodriguez smiled. "After all, nothing brings species together quite like trying to figure out how humans do impossible things." "Commander?" "Yes, sir?" "Next time, perhaps a little more warning before you rewrite the laws of physics?" "I'll do my best, sir. Though you might want to warn the insurance adjusters about next week's scheduled demonstration of human parkour techniques in variable gravity conditions." The Admiral's translator actually gave up at that point. As Rodriguez left the office, she couldn't help but smile. The ICITC was already exceeding expectations, and she hadn't even started implementing the really interesting training programs yet. Her communicator chimed with a message from Earth Command. Request for clarification regarding rumors of impossible training scenarios. Please confirm or deny reports of quantum probability manipulation being used for basic obstacle courses. She typed back a single line. Define impossible. Commander Rodriguez, your presence is requested in the quantum analysis laboratory. The AI's voice echoed through her office with what she could have sworn was a note of concern. Rodriguez looked up from the stack of reports detailing the latest training incidents across various ICITC facilities. What did they break this time? According to preliminary scans, they appear to have created a localized temporal anomaly. She paused mid-sip of her coffee. They did what now? The Arcturian-Rigelian Joint Training Team attempted to combine crystalline resonance frequencies with plasma-enhanced quantum probability manipulation. The results were unexpected. Rodriguez was already moving. Define unexpected. The training dummy they were using appears to be experiencing Tuesday and Thursday simultaneously. This, Rodriguez reflected as she hurried toward the lab, was exactly the sort of thing that happened when you encourage different species to get creative with their natural abilities. The insurance adjusters were going to have a field day with this one. The scene that greeted her in the lab was surprisingly orderly, considering they'd apparently broken time. The Arcturian-Rigelian team stood at perfect attention, their respective energy fields carefully contained. The training dummy floated in a containment field, occasionally flickering between what appeared to be different versions of itself. Commander, the Arcturian captain's bioluminescence pattern spelled out what Rodriguez had come to recognize as, "Please don't tell Admiral Yoloth." We can explain. I'm sure you can. Rodriguez approached the containment field, studying the temporal anomaly with professional interest. Though I'm more curious about how you managed to achieve quantum temporal coupling without access to a Class 4 probability manipulator. The Rigelian chief's crystalline structure shifted in what might have been embarrassment. We may have modified some of the training equipment. Modified how? We theorized that if we used the crystalline resonance to create a stable quantum field, then amplified it with plasma energy at precisely the right frequency. You could simulate a higher-level probability manipulator, Rodriguez finished, nodding. Clever. Completely against about 15 different safety protocols, but clever. She studied the readings on the containment field. The real question is why? The two commanders exchanged looks. The Arcturian captain's bioluminescence flickered rapidly. We were attempting to recreate some of your training techniques, Commander. My techniques don't involve breaking the temporal continuum. With all due respect, Commander, the Rigelian chief's crystalline form pulsed. You regularly perform feats that our scientists claim should be physically impossible. We merely sought to understand how. Rodriguez pinched the bridge of her nose. By creating a temporal anomaly? We theorized that humans might be unconsciously manipulating quantum probabilities to achieve your extraordinary physical capabilities. So you decided to test this theory by breaking physics? In a controlled environment, the Arcturian captain added quickly. Rodriguez looked at the training dummy, which was now somehow managing to fall up. How's that working out for you? Before either commander could respond, Admiral Yoloth's voice came through the facility's communication system. Commander Rodriguez, would you care to explain why our temporal sensors are detecting anomalies in the quantum analysis lab? Just a minor training innovation, sir, Rodriguez replied smoothly. The Arcturian-Rigelian team is exploring new applications of their combined capabilities. And this exploration required destabilizing the local space-time continuum? To be fair, sir, it's only a very small part of the continuum. The Admiral's translator conveyed what might have been a sigh. Fix it, Commander, and please remind our enthusiastic allies that temporal manipulation is expressly forbidden under Section 7 of the Enhanced Training Protocols. Yes, sir. Rodriguez turned back to the team. All right, let's sort this out before we accidentally create a paradox. Though I have to admit, I'm impressed by your initiative. The next hour was spent carefully dismantling the temporal anomaly, while Rodriguez explained that no, humans weren't actually manipulating quantum probabilities. They were just really good at doing things everyone else thought were impossible. But how? The Rigelian chief asked as they powered down the last of the modified equipment. Our scientific models suggest that many of your physical achievements should not be possible within normal parameters. Rodriguez smiled. That's because you're working from the assumption that if something seems impossible, it must be impossible. Humans tend to treat impossible as more of a suggestion than a rule. Is that not dangerous? The Arcturian captain's patterns showed genuine concern. Extremely, Rodriguez agreed cheerfully. Which is why we have training programs and safety protocols. Speaking of which, she pulled up the facility's training schedule on her datapad. Since you're both so interested in pushing boundaries, how about we explore some actual human training techniques? No quantum manipulation required. Both commanders perked up noticeably. I've been developing a new program that combines elements of several Earth extreme sports. We call it Parkour Plus. Is it dangerous? The Regellian chief asked. Only if you do it wrong. And the insurance adjusters? Have already increased our medical coverage. Rodriguez grinned. So, shall we see what you can do without breaking physics? The resulting training session would later be described in official reports as an innovative exploration of interspecies physical capabilities. Unofficial accounts usually went with, that time Commander Rodriguez taught aliens to do backflips. To everyone's surprise, especially the insurance adjusters, nothing actually broke, except perhaps a few preconceptions about species limitations. Later that evening, Rodriguez sat in her office, finishing her report on the day's events. Her communicator chimed with a message from Earth Command. Regarding your latest training innovation report, please clarify minor temporal disruption and enthusiastic interpretation of quantum mechanics. She typed back. No permanent damage to space-time continuum. Temporal anomaly successfully contained. Requesting updated guidelines regarding acceptable levels of physics manipulation in training scenarios. The response came almost immediately. Request denied. Stick to conventional impossibilities. Rodriguez smiled and made a note in her training logs. Perhaps it was time to introduce her alien colleagues to the concept of free running. After all, what could possibly go wrong with teaching various species how to traverse urban environments in creative ways? The insurance adjusters would probably rather not know. End of report training. Document reference. XJ7732. Status. Pending review. Note. This document has been flagged for multiple violations of the laws of physics. Additional note. The Temporal Compliance Board requests that all future training innovations be submitted for review before implementation. Final note. Commander Rodriguez is reminded that seeing if they could is not a valid justification for quantum experiments. Addendum. The training dummy has been successfully restored to a single temporal state, though it now appears to think it's Wednesday.